So this is an unplanted plant. It's in a 1 gallon pot. This is a 1 gallon. The top, this would be considered the foliage or the plant itself. And then when you take it out of the pot, that is considered what we call the root ball. From the top of where the dirt starts to the bottom, where all the roots are rooted in, is the root ball. 1 gallon plants, it's always good to twist it to mark your spot so you know where it goes. And you don't have to try and dig the perfect hole, just one good shovelful from that area, set it to the side. And to take the plant out of the pot, we like to put your hand over the root ball, turn it upside down and let it fall out. And then you just move the dirt out of the way with your hand, set the plant in, and spread the dirt around. You always want to plant the root ball, you know, maybe an inch or so higher than the level of the dirt, the existing dirt. And then that extra soil, you just spread it around. The same rules apply to medium-sized plants like 3 gallon, 5 gallon, and 7 gallon as the small plants like 1 gallon. Just make sure you mark your spot, you know where it was at. The hole doesn't have to be a perfectly round hole. Just take a couple good shovelfuls. And when taking the plant out of the pot, especially with roses because they have thorns, you never want to grab the plant by the stem or by the trunk. Sometimes the root balls aren't firm, they're kind of loose and they'll fall apart. So you want to put your hand around the base of the plant and on top of the root ball, and then you can turn it upside down. I usually put my finger inside one of these holes and use that to pull the pot off the plant. And that way everything stays together and intact. You just put your hand on the bottom. Well, first you want to make sure you clear the hole out. Put your hand on the bottom and set it in. It's about right. You want the root ball to be probably an inch higher than the level of the dirt here. And then just use that extra dirt that you dug out, fill in around it, and pack it in a little bit. And then sometimes it's just as easy to use a shovel to do that part. And pack it in with your foot. And that's it. So it's also important to pay attention to the spacing of the plants as you're planting them. Instead of being hyper-focused on exactly where you marked the spot for the plant to go, it's a good idea to take a step back every now and then and double check and make sure that the spacing is correct. And to do that, you probably want to pay attention to the spacing beforehand, before you start planting the plants, and just kind of memorize what it looks like. A couple tips for when planting these larger plants like this 30-gallon Savannah holly is when trying to measure for the depth of the hole, we like to use just the handle of our shovel. You put it across the root ball all the way to the other side and use your thumb to mark how wide the plant is. And you can use that to see how wide to dig your hole. And then do the same thing with the depth. Put the shovel into the shovel on the ground. Use your thumb to mark the top of the root ball. Sometimes it's not necessarily the top of the pot. In this case, the root ball is sitting down probably 2 inches below the top of the pot. So I'll put my thumb there. And same thing here, we want to make sure that the root ball is higher than the level of the dirt, but with larger plants, instead of an inch, you probably want maybe 2 inches above the level of the dirt, or 2.5. In this case, we're good. So we can go ahead and take the plant out of the pot and set it in the hole. And so we're planting the 30-gallon larger plants, 15, 30-gallon. It's not always necessary to have more than one person to remove the plant from the pot. Even if you're not a very strong person, a trick for doing it is grab the plant at the base of the trunk and then lean it over toward the hole. And be careful not to break any limbs. And once you lean it over, you can use the other hand to push the pot the opposite direction that you're pulling the plant. And just let it fall in. So when planting in larger plants, it's also important to make sure that the plant is straight and that the prettiest side, fullest side is facing towards the area where most people are going to be looking. And then I just make sure I straighten it. I can throw a little dirt in there to help hold it up. So you straighten it before you pack the dirt in. Once you know it's straight, then you can go ahead and start filling in around it. And since I planted it a little bit high, I'll go ahead and kind of slope the dirt from the level of the root ball away from it. So one last thing is whenever we're filling in around the plant with the extra dirt, you don't want to cover the trunk of the plant or build up dirt on the trunk, because that can hinder the plant's growth and damage it. So you always want to, you never want the dirt to be higher than the top of the root ball. So just, if you ever see that, pull the dirt away from the trunk and spread it around. That's one of the reasons that we plant the plants a little bit higher as well.